Turning now to some international news and that closely watched and tested relationship between the U.S. and China. President Joe Biden hosted Chinese President Xi Jinping at a virtual climate summit this week, marking their first meeting since Biden took office. It's a relationship that former President Trump touted. Now President Biden is beginning to establish his own policies with the communist country. Earlier today, I spoke with Michael Auslin, a distinguished research fellow in contemporary Asia at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University, and author of Asia's New Geopolitics, about how their policies differ, what kind of agreements are possible right now, and what it means for both countries going forward. We've been looking at, of course, at that virtual climate summit by President Biden. China being there, certainly an encouraging sign to superpowers who need to kind of find some common ground and mutual goals on this issue. China set a goal for carbon neutrality by the year 2060, but still not a lot of detail how they're going to get there. How do you read the tea leaves of how the summit's proceeded so far?
You remember the last time we went around on the climate issues, that China considers itself a developing nation, and the developing nation said, we can't cut climate. We can't cut our emissions. It'll prevent us from developing our economy, and it's really the developed world that needs to do all of the cutting. So I think that given the general bad faith that exists right now between Beijing and Washington, it's going to be hard to get an agreement on this, as it's going to be hard to get an agreement on other things.
Let me ask you this. Have you been able yet to get a sense of any striking difference yet between Biden's approach to China and Trump's approach to China when he was in office? Has there been a sharp delineation yet?
Right now, I think we see a lot of continuity, which is not surprising when you have a change of administrations. What is different in the long run, of course, is that former President Trump pretty dramatically changed U.S.-China relations from what had been the norm for the previous 40 years. And right now, President Biden is maintaining that. So you're seeing two presidents in a row that have a different China policy from what we adopted back in the 1970s. But so far, President Biden has held firm on tariffs. In fact, just last week on the cyber side, they announced that 5 companies, Chinese companies that are tech-related, including Huawei and ZTE, were national security risks. You see a very forward-leaning Taiwan policy. Of course, you saw the Quad meetings that the president was part of. And you've seen activity on the part of the U.S. in the South China Sea. So overall, they're clearly maintaining the Trump policy for now. The question is, what happens when they do all of their own reviews, when they come up with their own national security strategy, and what do they decide they're going to do after that?
Just for folks watching at home who don't necessarily follow the ins and outs of international politics here, can you just explain for everyday people why the U.S.-China relationship not only is so complex, but why it is so important? In other words, that's a long way of asking, why should the average American care about the U.S.-China relationship?
Well, it's a long question to answer, and I think, first of all, it's the economics of China's extraordinarily successful rise to economic predominance in the world over the past 30 years. The fact that it is the linchpin of global supply chains. It is becoming incredibly important, obviously, on the tech front, in artificial intelligence, of course, on finance. It's Belt and Road, which wraps up countries throughout Eurasia. All of this affects the ability of the United States to trade in the world, the countries that we have to trade with, dealing with China, dealing with partners of China. But the reason that the relationship is so fraught is not merely because China is a rising power. We've dealt with rising powers before, but because the Chinese Communist Party holds an ideology that is directly counter to those of the liberal West, to the openness, the belief in the rule of law, the belief in individualism, the belief in civil rights, gender rights, equality, all the things that the people of China are not able to enjoy, but which also the Chinese Communist Party attempts to impose from abroad, whether it's through some attempts at debt diplomacy, whether it's pressuring, of course, taking away the freedoms of Hong Kong, the gulags that they have set up in Xinjiang, pressuring Tibet and other countries. We have a fundamental clash of values but we've never had that with a country as powerful and as economically integrated with the world as China.
I rarely have heard it put that eloquently. So thank you for that answer. A lot of truth and a lot to digest in there. And it's a fascinating relationship for so many reasons. Michael, thanks so much for your time and your expertise tonight. We sincerely appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.